I think we can start now, and I hope everyone can hear me well. Also here in the room, and also those participants joining online. This session, which is one of the two first sessions of the Charmeu Governance Forum, because we have parallel sessions. My name is Ferenc Stakó. I'm head of the Charmeu office of Ötös University in Budapest, Hungary, member of Charmeu European University, and I think I can say that many of us, at least, are after 3 quite intensive months of preparing proposals for the new call for European University Alliances, and I think many of these calls, many of these proposals include some sections, paragraphs, points, deliverables related to IT solutions. And the purpose of this session is also to discuss examples of IT solutions to support European University Alliances. I must confess that on the one hand, I have some insight into the operation of a European University Alliance because I'm working in Charmeu since the very beginning, so late 2018. But I'm not an IT person, so I won't go into technical terms and many details. I just would like to give a very brief overview about the challenges Charmeu is going to be facing in the next in these years, and then just to raise the main questions we would like to discuss with you and with our speakers, who I would like to welcome now as our guests, and then I will introduce them when they start their sessions. We will be very so our schedule is quite tight, so I will ask our presenters to present first, and then in the end we will have a discussion. Otherwise, it is quite risky that we won't be on time. But I hope we can have some time for discussion in the end. So first, a few words about Charmeu European University Alliance. Charmeu is a challenge-driven, accessible, research-based mobile European university that started its work in 2019, November. And the founding universities were the University of Barcelona, University of Montpellier, Utrecht University, Trinity College Dublin, and Ötös University from Budapest, Hungary. And we are very glad to have 3 new partners: Obo University from Finland, Würzburg University from Germany, Hochschule Ruhr-West also from Germany from this January onwards. And our aims, very briefly, were to build the structure of a new higher education institution with all its operational procedures, governance model, HR and finance techniques, and of course all the services, including IT, and then to test it with a master's program that started in September 2021. And now about the challenges already from the field of IT. On the one hand, as I said, we were in the need of joint operation while we were not a joint legal entity. That means that we started a master's program that towards the students was one, but in all operational and administrative matters was produced and offered to the students by 5 institutions that all had to complete all the required administrative tasks at their own systems separately, while of course it was not possible to ask the students to do everything 5 times, because that would be disastrous for the students. And meanwhile, we had to involve hundreds of academic staff members and the new Charmeu students in quite diverse and complex hybrid teaching and learning activities at the same time at 5 different locations. So these were the administrative and teaching and learning challenges we were facing. What were our temporary solutions? On the one hand, in terms of the teaching activities, we are currently using the virtual learning environment of Utrecht University. This means that all the students, all the staff members are provided an access to the Utrecht system, and we are entering as if we were Utrecht University citizens, of course, with the communication that this is the system used by CharmEU. In terms of the administrative and operative issues, we were using the system of Barcelona. So the students were applying in the university application system of Barcelona, and they were registering themselves there. That was charmed a little bit. That means the colors, the name, but in the background, it was the Barcelona system. This means that after the students were in that system, we had to transfer the data to all the other 4 institutions more or less manually. So that the students can be registered there. And of course, just one sentence, all that with the GDPR monster at our back. So we always had to discuss all these data transfer procedures from a legal aspect. Meanwhile, what are the plans of Charm European University? On the one hand, we would like to start, and this session is kind of a first step for that, or second, be involved in more and more active discussions with the 401 and 402 subgroups of European University Alliances, sharing CharmEU good practices on the one hand, and working on joint developments with the colleagues on the other. We would like to strengthen our IT background for management and organizational activities. And we would like to use a federal and cooperative model to lay the foundations to a data-driven university, and for standardization and interoperability of the partners. So what we are going to do is that we scope those activities which will systematically reveal and classify the data assets, educational, scientific, and administrational. Of course, we are not going to details now on the Horizon projects, so the research projects of the alliances, but of course, those have very significant IT connotations and requirements. We also have to channel in our developments. So the data assets of the CharmEU community, and we will then develop the common metadata structure and interoperability communication standards that we will use. These are, of course, plans for the next project. So now we are, until the end of this project, we are using the methods I showed as temporary solutions. So based on these activities and planned activities of CharmEU, we are raising these 3 main questions for today's session, and this would be my last word for the introduction. How we can balance between short and long-term objectives? How is it possible to solve our challenges quickly? Because the European Universities Initiative is an initiative where we are somehow always in a hurry, so we don't have years to plan and then years to pilot and years to implement. We are in continuous time under continuous time pressure, but at the same time we must plan for the long run. So it is, of course, always a strict requirement to apply solutions that also lead us to new solutions and forward-looking solutions. And the other question is how we can work towards the representation and usage of data and the basis of the data-driven operation in administration and education in a collaborative way, also contributing to the digital background of the European higher education area, because in the end of the day, we are working on the development of European higher education, which would mean sometime that some digital solutions are applied by these 41 or later 50 or who knows how many European university alliances, and universities that might not be members of these alliances but belong to the European higher education area. And the third question is very closely linked to this one. How can we foster cooperation uh, between the alliances already working in these projects and working in the 401, 402 groups? How can we bring them together more frequently and more effectively in terms of the joint suggestions and possible solutions in the future? So thank you very much for your kind attention. And with this, I would like to immediately give the floor to our next presenter, and that is one aspect I have not emphasized, but of course I welcome not only the alliances but also the external stakeholders, because their presence is extremely important for us. And the first presenter today will be Christian Bock, Program Manager for Technology Enhanced Learning at the SURF organization, which is a national organization in the Netherlands supporting higher education institutions. And we are very grateful that we can get insight into that from that angle into the national IT operation of higher education, in this case of the Netherlands, because while the alliances are working in themselves and together on international development, it's very important that education is always a national matter, and there must be close cooperation between the alliances and all the partner countries of the member institutions. So I would like to give the floor to Christian Bock. Thank you very much for being with us. And yeah, I think we have a PowerPoint here.
No, I don't have a no. No, thank you very much.
Then I close this. Shall I stop sharing? I think, right?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be able to give a short presentation. I recognize the questions you address, and I'm afraid I'm not here to give any answers. So I hope this is not a disappointment, but I am here with a call to all of you, and not only to the Charm University, but also to other European alliances. I think autonomy is one of the most important values of education. Autonomy on pedagogy and content of education, and the autonomy of professionals in universities provide room for world-class education, various views and opinions, and therefore it is very important to treasure that autonomy. However, maintaining autonomy on the organization of education gets in the way of world-class education. Supporting systems such as student information systems and learning management systems that are not interoperable create a lot of administrative burdens for students and for teachers. And this happens even within a university. Don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating to all use the same system, but to organize interoperability. This is becoming more and more urgent since the mobility of students is growing. COVID has accelerated that growth, since students are more and more aware that they can study anytime, any place. In this digital age, we need digital solutions to organize the growing student mobility and to facilitate students in their orientation, enrollment, admission, assessment, credentialing, etc. When it comes to developing and implementing IT infrastructural solutions that are needed to support the administrative and logistics aspects of education, there is not much coordination between universities yet. Different solutions are developed within different European initiatives, within countries, and even within an institution. Those solutions often work very well to solve the problems within their own context, but it gets increasingly problematic when universities want to collaborate and when students want to study abroad. The risk that different solutions are not interoperable is growing, and this is not in the interest of students. Market parties see endless possibilities when it comes to education. Global investments in the edtech sector grew from 15 billion euros in 2020 to over 20 billion euros in 2021. In general, the business models of market parties are not aimed at interoperability at all. They are more and more determined. So these market parties more and more determined how the infrastructure for education looks like, offering their closed ecosystems. This trend not only stands in the way of interoperability, but also undermines the digital sovereignty of the educational sector. The current fragmentation of the landscape and the lack of coordination to come to agreements has serious consequences. The growing international student mobility is not supported by solutions that are useful within their own limited context, but are not interoperable with other solutions. The pace of innovation in the educational sector is slow because public resources are spent inefficiently, both in money and in brainpower, and different solutions become competing instead of interoperable. The dominance of market parties is increasing, and higher education gets more and more dependent on solutions that only work within their own closed ecosystems, which promotes a serious risk of vendor lock-ins. And I think the only solution is collaboration. As universities, as countries, and preferably in Europe. Europe has shown its strength in collaboration and joint agreements. The GDPR has a direct and global impact on market parties, for example. And also, European education sector has shown its strength, for example, with the Bologna Declaration. The Bologna Declaration started in 1998 with the Sorbonne Declaration, an initiative of France, Germany, Italy, and the United Kingdom. The Sorbonne Declaration was a joint declaration on harmonization of the architecture on the European higher education system, and it led to the Bologna Declaration. The Bologna Declaration does not subscribe the content of the curricula, not on the pedagogy. It ensures that bachelors and masters train to the same level. And that is the strength of the declaration. It allows and encourages autonomy of pedagogy and content of education, but enhances the way that students can prepare themselves for an international labor market and enables student mobility. I think Europe has shown great leadership by initiating European universities to enhance the quality of education and the competitiveness in Europe. And these European universities are real. Students are enrolling for cross-national courses and even masters right now. It's happening now. The European universities will accelerate the collaboration between European universities and European student mobility. A declaration that also contains the harmonization of the digital infrastructure of the European higher educational system could support this. And when I say a digital infrastructure, I don't mean a digital infrastructure that subscribes the technical solutions European universities should use, but a digital infrastructure that ensures the support of different technical solutions and enables interoperability. Because one size fits no one. So this declaration should not enforce specific solution, but should organize interoperability through open standards. Only if universities collaborate, students can be serviced. Innovation power can grow and digital sovereignty can be regained. If universities succeed, this would be a revolutionary change with a huge impact. I think European University can play a key role in make this change happen. Because now European universities are growing, as is their need for digital solutions to foster student mobility. Now is the time to organize collaboration. It would be a loss if all alliances would develop their own solutions without taking the aspects of interoperability with other solutions, with other alliances into account. Not investing in a common architecture and agreements on open standards will increase the waste of money and brainpower. The fragmentation caused by competing solutions in the sector would become even bigger than it is already. My hope is that this forum may lead to a declaration of Montpellier, an initiative by maybe a small number of alliances, but that may have an impact that is even bigger than the impact of the Bologna Declaration. I am convinced that if European universities join forces now, they will have a worldwide impact. Just like the GDPR, harmonization of the digital infrastructure for education will also impact, for example, the strategy of global market parties. Of course, this is easier said than done. Organizing interoperability does not only involve technical issues. For example, for digital badges for micro-credentials to be interoperable, universities need to agree on the meaning and the value of courses and parts of curriculum. So it's not only technical. There is not only a need to collaborate as universities and countries, but also a need to organize the collaboration between educational experts and IT experts. And even within universities, collaboration between education and IT can be very difficult to organize. But realizing the Bologna Declaration wasn't easy as well. Universities learn to do that just by starting the process and learn by doing. For the Bologna Declaration, national ministries of education and national associations of universities were involved in the designing process. For a digital infrastructure, national ministries and associations of university could oversee the educational agreements that are needed. And as an addition to that, national organizations that are responsible for the education and research infrastructure could be involved. Each member state has such an organization. Maybe existing European organizations can also play a role in the governance that is needed to ensure that all solutions that are bought or developed are really interoperable and monitor the use of open standards and agreements on architecture. This may work. Once the process started with the Sorbonne Declaration, the process towards the Bologna Declaration developed surprisingly quickly. But European university needs digital solutions right now, as you said. Additional action may be needed. In the Netherlands, all 50 universities collaborate in the National Acceleration Plan on topics that are key for the innovation of education. They share the burden, so to say, by collaborating in coalitions of the willing. So frontrunners on certain topics invest in developing solutions that will be available and applicable for all universities in the Netherlands. This model works very well. Maybe a similar model could work in organizing interoperability for current challenges in European alliances. In that way, European universities can work together on a portfolio for interoperable private and commercial services that can be used locally, nationally, and at the European level. This will enable autonomy regarding the pedagogy and the content of education, will enhance international student mobility, and the sector can regain its digital sovereignty. I think today, European universities can write history. Everything in this world starts with the initiative of people. And there is no better time to act than now. You share the same ambitions and face the same challenges. I am convinced that by taking initiative now, European universities can make an important contribution to the necessary counterforce of Europe in protecting our values. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting and thought-provoking presentation. I think there will be a lot of questions, but we will keep them until the end when we have a discussion with all the participants. And our next presenter will be online with us. I hope they can hear me. Because CHARMU is also building relationship with other European university alliances that are working on different solutions, in this case IT solutions. And our second speaker will be, I hope I pronounce properly, Thrasivoulos Tsiatsos, assistant professor in the Department of Informatics at the University of Thessaloniki, representing the Epicure Alliance. And I think you have a presentation you can share from your machine, but we also have it if that wouldn't be working. So the floor is yours.
Good morning, and I'm really happy that I'm with you. I would like to thank you for your invitation because, as I heard before from the previous speakers, you are expressing everything that I have in my mind. I totally agree with the previous speaker about the standardization and the interoperability. And these are the challenges that I would like also to speak with you. But before that, I would like to present you very briefly what we have done in Epicure in order to show you that we have found some solutions to this direction. And then the main challenges that we have also in our agenda. So Epicure is an alliance with two French universities, two German universities, one from Greece, one from Austria, one from the Netherlands, one from Poland. And also we have a new partner from the University of Southern Denmark, from Denmark. So we are 9 universities with totally different, cultures and digital backgrounds. But as the previous speaker said, we need to harmonize the digital technologies. But before that, there is a very important issue. We need to harmonize the processes. We need to identify what are the main processes that together we will follow in order to support the mobility, for example. And with these specific processes, we need to identify what are the main data that we need to exchange. Because if we identify the process and the data exchange, then we can find an interoperable solution. This is the way that we are working in Epicure. And here I'm presenting in this diagram the 13 steps that we are using in the current pilot phase in Epicure in order to create a mobility. First of all, we are define the mobility. We have the open call for courses. We have the selection of courses, and then we are creating the course catalog. And after in our system, and after that, we are opening students admission. We have the students application, student selection. We are creating all the learning agreements as in the Erasmus mobilities. Then we have the delivery of the courses online or on site, the students grading in our system, and then we are giving to them the credits, and we are recognizing the CTS. But every step has a lot of data. For example, in order to have the course catalog, there are specific templates. What are the data for the course? What are the quality assurance processes behind? What are the data that we need for the student during the admission? What are the data that we need for the learning agreement, and what are for the ECTS recognition? So in order to deploy this mobility process in our system, our vision was to create a central gateway for the Alliance to offer these mobilities, for the universities to share the courses, but also for the professors, students, and administrators to communicate together and also to deliver courses and attend courses. And as we know, and as the previous speaker said, there are some systems in the universities. The main systems are the campus management system or the student information system and the learning management systems, and also the institutional accounts. In some universities, these systems are not synchronized. In some universities, there are. This is a normal situation with where we have professors and students using institutional account in visiting the systems in order to be registered or to deliver courses and attend courses. And the program of studies and the courses are synchronized between the two systems. But for the Epicure, the main problem was to have this unified access. As I have heard before, in the CharmEU, this unified access has been done mainly in Barcelona's system and then manually is transferred. We have created the centralized campus management system in Epicure, but also a decentralized learning management system. And our solutions was to use single sign-on, using institutional account and federated solutions like EduGain in order to support that. And then we have created our VURS, our common campus management system, and the decentralized LMS, we call that VCLP. And here is the process. We are creating mobilities, meaning program of studies. We are relating courses in the mobilities. We put all of them in our campus management system. And then the administrative staff is monitoring the mobilities through the system, is able to start monitoring the mobilities. And we're synchronizing our campus management system with the LMS, the main LMS. And we are announcing the public course catalog automatically to the students. Then the students can apply for their courses using their institutional account, using their local account, and based on this a broker service that we have created, we can decentralize. A student can go, for example, from University of Thessaloniki, using the local institutional account to go, for example, to Freiburg University in order to attend the course. Then the student can see in the central system, the grades, can communicate with the professor, and the professors can upload the grade. Here is the automatic course catalog that is created based on what we have in the database. And here is a template for the courses in the course catalog. But also the student has many services, for example, to apply for a mobility program in the system, and the dashboard to see grades, etc. But also can issue a learning agreement in order then to recognize the course and the ECTS. And everything is digitalized. Also, we have digital signatures here. And the professor can grade the students. And at the end, we're creating the transcript of records where we have everything, the ECTS, and this is also digitally signed. But this is only one use case. This is the use case that we have created during the pilot phase, but we would like to extend this use case with more use cases, but also we would like to, in order to achieve the automatic recognition of courses, we should have all the courses in our system, we should have all the students, and we should connect the campus management systems of every university. So there is a lot of work that should be done. So for us, the main challenges are to select requirements and together as alliances to identify what are these requirements that you have as an alliance in your joint program of studies, but also to discuss together about that, to co-create use cases for mobilities. Otherwise, if we have our way for delivering mobilities and you have your way, then our systems could not be interoperable. The second is about the standardization, about the data exchange formats and standards for mobilities. There are some global standards that we can follow, and also there are standardization activities, for example, in the IMS Global Consortium. But also we should discuss together legal issues and GDPR issues concerning the mobilities, because this could be the main bottleneck for deploying solutions. So that's from the Epicure. I would like to thank you, and also I'm very open to discuss afterwards these challenges and to identify solutions or common follow-ups. Thank you.
Thank you very much for providing insight into your very exciting activities, and congratulations on all your results. Our next speaker, switching again to the room, will be representing another European University Alliance, Odysseus, where Jean-Luc Cavazza is digitalization unit responsible, and will give us give us insight into, I go again to the side, into their achievements. Please,
Thank you for inviting us. I'm here on behalf of Odysseus and University d'Azur, and I'm very happy to be here because we always miss occasions to talk to each other in terms of digitalization. We have some groups where we discuss, but they are like not so often, and sometimes not very like concrete on exactly software to use and so on. So I'm very happy to make some connections today, because I feel the same as you feel. We really need cooperation. We're all doing the same thing in our corner, and we need interoperability. So very glad to be here. I'm presenting the digital platform Ulysses. Ulysses is in the second wave of alliances, so we might be not as advanced as others, but still we've made quite a good number of stuff. So I'm happy to present them today. First, what is Ulysses? So Ulysses is let's say the key word is diversity. We have a very diverse European university, from east to west, from art science universities to management centers and so on. So it's quite diverse, and digital platform is a must. I mean, we cannot do anything without that, because between Sevilla and Agalia, if you want to collaborate and so on, you cannot do anything else. About the digital platform, we are lucky because we were in the second wave, so digitalization was part of the deliverables we had to deliver in the scope of the project, and we had some budget to do so. So I'm very happy that we are two of us dedicated to digitalization inside Ulysses. This is the happy side of facts. The constraint is that we have to deliver stuff, otherwise very concrete stuff, as part of the deliverables of Ulysses. The few things, so the few principles we choose to follow is that we want to heavily rely on commonalities, because we don't have the money, the energy to build stuff from scratch by ourselves. So we heavily relied on open source software and common solutions from already existing partners. We adopted a federative approach, so I'm happy that you talk about it, because it's very important. We want interoperability, we want people to be to easily connect to each other systems, and we want open source rather than vendor-based solution, because we don't want to have a vendor lock as much as possible for any of the stuff we deliver. And in terms of the things we delivered, so there is a learning management system, an intranet, social network, open science repository, and of course a public website with access to mobilities. Not all of that is already delivered, but it's part of what we need to deliver. So I will go through the deliverables, and I will tell a bit the story, because I don't know exactly what will be the tone of today's meeting. So first, the website. So each time I give the solution we choose. So here it's WordPress, and I give some links, but I mean it's not useful for all of the solutions. It's using WordPress. Why we use WordPress is because it's open source, of course, because we can host it ourselves, because it's very well documented, and because it allows as well a back office. We need a back office because we want, as was said just earlier on, that we could create different contents like mobilities, like any kind of. So in WordPress, it's post type, but okay, content types, and we want to easily give access to these content types to people around our organization. And that's very easy to be done in WordPress without the burden of understanding a system. There are plenty of plugins to help us at doing so, and so we don't have to code anything. We can just like customize the way those plugins work. So to create custom post types, to create custom fields, so that in the end, an article on the website or a mobility could be designed the same way. And you could give access to admins only for mobilities in an easy fashion. You don't have to monitor complex authorization rights and so on. So that's the choice we made for the sake of simplicity as well. For the teams and intranet, this is one of the choices that we're not particularly proud of, but I think we couldn't do anything else, being only the two of us, is to use a Microsoft solution for collaboration. Why that? Because 5 out of 6 universities are using it, because it allows us to quickly onboard on collaboration, so using Teams, using SharePoint, and so on. And we needed this service right from the beginning, because to build the alliance, to manage the project, and so on, we needed to collaborate like straight away. And we have some plans, and we talk about it, to potentially complete or replace Microsoft 365 for some of the aspects that it delivers. But for the beginning, we thought during the first year it was the only way to have everyone collaborating smoothly, let's say, smoothly, sometimes not so smoothly, on a common platform. And from now, all the documents of Deliverables EU are on the common SharePoint, and people are like plenty of teams created to work on it a bit and so on, so it's working quite well still. Even if there are some headaches sometimes with logins. About the LMS, so we used Moodle because 5 out of 6 universities were using Moodle already, so we had the knowledge inside the UCUs. And we used Deliverables for the online sessions because NCI, which is part of the Alliance, is using it heavily. And so they gave us the competency to host the Deliverables service, which is like a video conferencing, but that it can be easily integrated into Moodle. There is a plugin, and it's very, very fast to do. Like we use quite a vanilla version of Moodle because we didn't want to invest too much in how it looks, because Moodle is delivering a new version, a new major version this year. So we don't want to invest a ton of money and then to have to redo everything during 2022. So we just customize the colors, but we didn't do much. And so the philosophy behind this LMS is that all the new courses of the Alliance will be done on this LMS, which is a common LMS and which is accessible thanks to Shibboleth and Edugain, which is accessible to all students of our universities. So we made sure that anyone from our universities can access to this model without any new login. That was a very, very strong requirement. And thanks to Edugain, it's possible. So we had to learn it, to go through it, because it's not the easiest topic. Here, I want to reinforce the message that was said before. Interconnectivity of, so it's called SSO, single sign-on, is crucial. I mean, it's really crucial to be able to connect to any service without having to manage the onboarding of users. Because what costs us so much money is onboarding users, manually processing users. It's sending information about the profile of users to another university. So for this purpose, Shibboleth, Edugain, and so on is very much an initiative to encourage. I didn't write it down because I reacted on the discourse made just before. And if there is something we can do, I think it is to encourage Edugain. I mean, we have a lot of national authorities. In France, it's Renater, for instance. And I don't know if you know, but last year, Renater was bankrupt, nearly bankrupt. They had to save it because the budget of Renater was too much compared to what they had to deliver. And so the support to this national and cross-national institution that help us efficiently delivering single sign-on and plenty of other tools is crucial. And I wish, as universities or open universities, we support them as much as we can, politically at least. So that's for the LMS. So and second thing interesting here, the way I did it, I have some backup slide I won't show. I managed to find, and it was completely random discovery, something done by the Ulm University, which is part of another European university, and which had a repository where they had a kind of Moodle together with Shibboleth, together with everything packed into one single stuff that I could reuse, customize, and make it for myself. And this kind of initiative where someone is doing something, deliver it as open source on this repository, and someone else from another university say, ah, nice, this is exactly what I want. This is very useful, and I think we should do it more. Like, say what we do, deliver the code to the source code, and share the same principles. A survey tool, so this is just anecdotic, just to say that we need it to be GDPR compliant, so we cannot use straight away Microsoft solutions, so we hosted a Lime survey, pretty easy to do, but it's multilingual, it allows export of results and so on, so it makes a job for what we need, and as we are making a lot of surveys, because we are in the first phase of the alliances, it's a quite important tool for us. The social network, this one we're quite proud of it. It was part of the deliverables, happily. We wanted to have a social network for our researchers because we wanted our researchers to be able to know each other better, and we didn't want to depend on the existing market-based solutions to have our researchers connect to each other. So we created one, let's say from nothing. And the way we did it, because we didn't want to code it, to do the software engineering, is that we use a solution called Mastodon. Mastodon is the biggest open source social network. And the beauty of it is that it's federative. I mean, that it's not something that is centralized and that you can have only one instance. Anyone can have a Mastodon instance in his home, even if you want, for yourself. And it can connect to each other very, very easy. It supports single sign-on. So it has all the features we need to be able to connect from all of our universities. So the backend Mastodon is open source, and the website that goes together is open source. And we managed to find an application that was open source as well that works with Mastodon, with the APIs of Mastodon. So we have customized it, but we have in our hands an app on Android, iOS, that works on the web, that is federative, and that allows our researchers to connect to each other. And we're very, very happy about it, heavily relying on open source and on federative solutions. And I encourage you to do the same if you wish, and we hope you're going to deliver the source code of what we've done, just to customize and to simplify the stuff. We have done a lot around that. And yeah, so we're working on it. The main features compared to a traditional social network, so it looks like Twitter. The main new features is that it allows researchers to discover each other based on their commonalities. I mean that you can like put your keywords, research keywords, and you will discover other researchers in the same field. Or you could create as well groups based on European projects, for instance, and you put some keywords of your European projects, and you can easily find researchers that might be interested by your project. So you invite them to your group, and then start a discussion, informal first, to start to collect people around the European project. So we're very excited about this project inside the USUs. And that's it for what we've delivered so far. So in the short term, what we have in mind is, and very important, is the mobilities and jobs catalog, because we want to have it on our website. So we have a lot of time thinking about exactly how to describe the mobility, what we should put, how we should present it on the website, and so on. So it's like nearly coming in the really coming weeks. And we have some prospective work as well, because we have to deliver a research, so current information system and data management system. So we have investigated, and we think we're going to use Java Space for that, which is open source software. Again, that is allowing single sign-on and so on with Shibboleth. And it's interoperable. That means that there are some protocols between those systems to exchange data. That means that we don't have to force researchers to put the information inside this research information system. We can crawl the publication from other platforms. In the midterm, we'd like to have all of our containers to migrate to Kubernetes. So this is super technical, but it means that to help us at scaling what we have done, we'd like to go into the private cloud stuff. And we want to have an OpenID entry point because so it's a bit technical, but we have some limitation with Shibboleth and with SAML, which is the protocol behind Shibboleth. And we'd like to be able to single sign ourselves with more modern or more widespread protocols. And there is one initiative that is done by Edugain and that is operated in Switzerland by the Switch network to have OpenID available for the federation in Switzerland, but it's not yet done at Edugain level, for instance. If something I would like to promote is to have OpenID available within Edugain, for instance. That would help us a lot. Because a lot of software knows that and don't know SAML or don't know Shibboleth. So it would be very nice to have it. And we'd like to test some more open source solutions. So Matrix is a federative chat solution, and Nextcloud is what I was talking about as a replacement of some parts of Microsoft 365. It's a complete solution around document management, document edition, and so on. So a collaboration suite, and that could replace, it's open source again, federative again, and it could replace parts of Microsoft 365.
Ich bin jetzt gleich dran. 10 Minuten.
I agree with you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for providing insight into an alliance of the second round. I think I stop sharing here. Yes, and I'm very happy to introduce our next speaker, who will provide insight again from a different angle. Professor Florian Schweigert is Vice President for International Affairs and Fundraising at Potsdam University, representing the EDUC Alliance, European Digital University Alliance, and he will also shed light on very important aspects, also from a leadership perspective, on the digitalization aspects of European universities. Vice Dr. Schweigert, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. It is very kind to be able to join you a little bit on the move, but it was a very good experience also to listen to the others coming in front of me. It somehow gives me the opportunity to maybe say everything has been said except by me, because many of these things are, I guess, problems which are arising and are touching all alliances by itself. A short introduction about our alliance. We have started out with 6 partners. We as University of Potsdam are leading this alliance. Rennes 1 et Paris-Nanterre, 2 French universities, Brünn, Maastricht University, Pécs University, and the University of Cagliari. We are now have increased to 8 members, 1 from Norway and 1 from Spain. So we have also reached the expected numbers in the new rollout of the calls. And if you look at our name, we have identified digitalization already before Corona as one of the major parts. And in this context, which have not been discussed yet, Corona was some kind of blessing and curse in the way of digitalization in courses. There was a lot of activities at the universities, but these were directed towards the national efforts and not towards the internationalization. So there was a little bit of competition. I would not like to go through all the different things. We all know the importance of digitalization of it. I would like to try to give it a perspective from the meta perspective. Don't ask me about technical aspects of this. I'm a trained veterinarian, and leading the alliance, you have to look at many other aspects. The most important, however, for us is to realize that we have a student journey and that we have a student mobility in the digital age, which is basically integrating joint courses. It integrates other services which we are already getting available from the European community or other areas like the European Standard Card, Student Card, and Erasmus Without Paper, and so on and so on. This all has to be integrated into the system to generate a complete closed digital journey of the student enrolling at the University of Potsdam, graduating, for example, at the University of Potsdam, but having intermediate steps at our alliance members. This has to be reflected and presented by what we are building up on the digital level. Our application, the first application, was structured in 4 pillars, and the digitalization was put under mobility and exchange scenarios. You can see work package 4, which was run by the University of Potsdam, virtual mobility exchange scenarios, and so on and so on. We have realized while we are working on this for the last 2 years that the pillar structure is nice to have, but it is difficult if you have no horizontal links in between the different 4 pillars we have, because we were realizing that outreach, community, social networking and stuff like this, and website, as we have heard before, this all somehow then comes into the question of digitalization. And we have learned, having learned this, we have changed this for our next application to get it more agile in a way, rather than like a silo structure we had before. If we go to the digital campus, I'm not, because of the time, I'm not giving you this details, because it is simply what everybody does. Teaching cooperation, joint development programs, that's basically you can find it in each alliance and each university, even not in an alliance, to have this as a target. But interestingly, our structure was first to think, and as we have heard it by the 2 other alliances, what do we have already in our alliance members? We have a very good IT structure in all of our 6 partners and developments, which could be used for the target discussion and for the purpose of creating an educational portal. Some were very good in having social medias. Others had a very good app for presenting internationalization corporations. Other had other options to work. So we decided to have a distribution portal, a backbone. This has already been developed by the University of Potsdam on a national project. And as any project, here comes one of the challenges for the future. The financing for the project stopped, and there was no more money from the university to continue it. And many of the services we have created there, I'm now talking for the University of Potsdam, have been dying because there were no more financing. And I think that's one of the challenges of the future. Also, the alliances are not regarded as projects. We need to understand how we are going to finance these services in the future in the university of context. So realizing that we have a lot of different capacities and capabilities and already digital services in our universities, we decided to have a front-end, back-end solution and have APIs in between where we can exchange the data freely. We have a single sign-on system on a Moodle platform. Moodle platform was already a challenge because one of our partners was not using Moodle, and there had to be structural challenges for these partners now to use the Moodle platform in addition to the other platform they were using for their national purposes. So that's another problem which we were faced on. Then we had created a learning, and we are creating a learning management system as has presented before, which includes all the important parts of the learning of such a learning systems, like incentivations for the lecturers. Why should they do something for an alliance in addition what they have to do for their national students? There's a teacher training program. There are other aspects of how to support their production of their way and to have a European university curriculum. These were the tasks and are still running at the EDUC network. if I come to the major challenges, and I was asked to look at this, and I might look at it from two different perspectives. One from the meta side is the biggest challenge in the university alliance is that the existing structures needs to adapt to the European needs of the European alliances without having additional staff and incentivation in their side. So there's always a very heavy competition between the requests of our alliance and the needs of the different structures. For example, many of the digital systems have been set up for national ways, and there have been made decisions how we move in the future for our national universities. Now comes EDUC and have different requests. So we have to negotiate very intensively with these structures to do so. The more day-to-day life challenges is, I don't know, but all of our partners have the same. We have not enough IT staff, and even if we would have the money to finance IT staff, we don't find people who are ready to work for the salary we pay at universities for a university on a limited period of time. There are already different solutions existing, so we have to negotiate with partners. Which solution are we taking? This has been already mentioned as well. GDPR implementation is really a hassle in Germany, even more than in other countries, because the German Länder, the federal system, creates for each federal state a different GDPR legal frame, basically how to implement it. Then we have this way of how to fund the equipment and the services. And coming back to the longer term view is, I think, well, we had talked about interoperability, but my biggest fear is that we run into something like we have experienced on national projects and national structures, that we don't have a sustainability of what everything we do. My personal view is, it is certainly what has been said at the very beginning, we need an European approach to this, but I truly do believe this system will only work if there are coming companies, if there are private public partnerships which develop something where they have a business case and where they can live on. If a company sees an advantage for this, then the system will work. And with this, having said this, I would like to finish my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Vice President, and thank you very much for raising many issues of high importance. For example, funding, because that's in the heart of the IT challenges we are facing, and I think now is the perfect time for discussion. We are magically on time. It is 10:52, which means we have about 20 minutes, a bit more than 20 minutes for discussion. And I would also like to call the attention of online participants to the possibility of raising questions in the tool which we are using currently. I see there are some comments about the streaming, and then there was a question and also an answer to that. But before reading those, I would like to ask participants here in the room whether there is an opening question for all speakers or to one of the speakers. Yes, Roisin, please.
I'd like Christian's view as the sort of non-person dealing with like the solutions that we see presented today. So like you made a very interesting call for a Montpellier declaration. Should that Montpellier declaration include the use of like open systems? These are the kind of things. What would be in that declaration?
Yes, that definitely should be in the declaration. But the interesting thing is that I think that we are working now on interoperability within specific systems, specific contexts. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that they are interoperable with other contexts. So I think we really need to make agreements that ensure the interoperability throughout the whole system. And that is not only a question of technical open standards, but also on the educational questions. And just like we said with the bachelor and master, that there should be some requirements to come to this certain level that we agree on. Yes, your bachelor is has the same value as my bachelor. So such agreements we also need to make. So it's not only about technical solutions, but you really need to connect that to be able to be interoperable. And I think we really have to realize that I think there are great examples that you present what you are working on, but we should really be aware of the fact that maybe those solutions aren't interoperable with other European universities. And that's not servicing our students.
Thank you very much for the question and for the answer. And I think it very much relates here what is written in the chat. The question or the suggestion was I think a survey iteration process identifying common challenges and demands could be a starting point to develop a more clear overview and understanding on common denominators. This was posted by Oliver Janoschka. And you can also read it in the chat. And this received a response from Janina van Hees saying, we have made a start with such an identification of common challenges in the IT subgroup of the 402 alliances led by Vlad Petko. So there is an ongoing discussion on the, as it is written here, in common denominators. As I see it, it is maybe a bit more intensive in the 402 subgroup because most probably because there it was already a must, if I can use this expression to include IT developments. And do you think it is because of that or because COVID was already
Somehow we started during the confinement, the first confinement, so COVID was already there. Yeah. So the need for digital stuff was already there, and everybody was doing stuff like delivering. And so in the delivery process, we were saying, okay, how do we do that? So we find shortcuts, we find ways to do it, to deliver it now. But at the same time, okay, but now we have our European universities, so if we want those students to access this course, to register there, and then we start to think, okay, maybe we need to coordinate ourselves. So that was one of the main topics we discussed. We even wrote a white paper in the 4U2 subgroup on IT to explain the subject on which we want to dive in, and the European Union to support us at having standards, having interoperability, having joint solutions, having more support of open source software, etc. So it's happening a bit, but we need a lot more to avoid duplication of work and non-compatible standards on our universities.
Thank you very much. Yes, Jan, please.
Thank you very much for your presentations. I'm Jan Haren from Utrecht University, responsible for teaching and learning strategies of the CHARM current project. What we did in CHARM was working on new education principles, working on core values, not developing some kind of new digitalization solutions, but using existing solutions within our universities. Now we are thinking of where should we go to, and what I've seen in your presentations is interesting solutions. And what we also experience is we need something for the short term, because we all have proposals sent in to the European Committee that we need to work on deliverables, and we need digital solutions for that. But that's really for the short term. And then maybe we are developing solutions which are more not connected with others, but for the short term. And therefore, I think there are two things, short term and long term, and it was explained in some of the presentations. And when it comes to the long term, it's very important that we collaborate, work together with the alliances, because we have a large amount of universities in all of our alliances. But it also means that maybe when we develop something for the short term, we also need to be brave and maybe make a sidestep or watch on a meter level that we develop maybe something for the short term, but maybe the solution from another alliance is better than ours. And we need to find standards where we all can benefit from. And it is really interesting what is developed. And I think that we also need to have a closer look on what the visions behind it are and how we can use that, but also use that in the broader sense of all the alliance in the higher education, the broader use in Europe. So yes, it's really interesting where all the alliances are working on, and I think that within the subgroup we need to find some kind of a investigation, survey, put things together, and then I think we need to use also this kind of IT organizations we have in our nations, because we all have them, and we need to find a way how we can collaborate with them and ask them support us. What we decided in CHARM is not building a new IT organization, but using all the existing IT organizations because we have them already. It is far too expensive to build something new. And that was also one of the presentations explaining how this works. So maybe a question is, how does the presenter see this, the short term and long term?
Thank you very much. Who would like to be first with the answer?
If you want. First, I will just build on the last thing you said about the cost of building a new solution. I would stress as well the cost of not building a new solution. Because when you say we rely on existing stuff, it can work, but you have to do it in a way that you bet it's going to be the third thing for everyone. So if you just say we reuse but we don't invest in it, that's just for those listening. I don't say you said you did that. Just those listening, you can reuse, but when you do that, invest in it so that it becomes the common thing. It goes beyond just reusing. You have to invest in it. And the chance we had is that we had some budget to deliver something new. So we did it. So that was the chance we had. And about the long term and the short term, there is no simple answer of that. What is sure is that like we did in Ulysses is that at the very beginning of the project we did 6 big workshops with members, so like users, customers of our solutions, to try to define what was needed concretely, like what kind of services from the Ulysses Alliance do you need on a day-to-day basis. And we started from, so we had the call, we had the deliverables on the call, but they were quite flexible. And so we did those 6 workshops and said, okay, we're going to choose this, and that. So and in the choice we made, we said, okay, what are the solutions that are already used? What are the strengths of the solution in terms of long-term future? Like we had some choice sometimes. Let's use this fancy new thing. Okay, but maybe it's not as interoperable as the other solutions. So we missed the fancy new stuff and we wait for it to be a bit later, and we use the one interoperable because we think, okay, it's going to work right now, it's going to be interoperable, and we could switch to something interoperable to that later on. So in the investment you do, you have to balance. I need the result now, and at the same time, I want something that can scale, that can extend, that can interoperate.
Yeah, I think there are two things. I really agree with you that you have to spend your money wisely. So if there are already solutions in place, then don't spend money on building another solution if it's not necessary. But I don't think that we all need to use the same solutions. I have this phone, you have another phone, but we can call each other, and there will be no a company that will build a phone that is not working with the other phones. We have all different cars, but we can drive on the same roads. But there's no car builder that will build a car that doesn't fit our roads. So I think that is very important. You don't need the same solution, but the solutions needs to be interoperable. So I think that is very important. And you talk about bravery, and I recognize that very for our organization as well. We are working on solutions for student mobility in the Netherlands, on identity access and identity management. And while you were talking about the standards that are not working or well working, we are struggling with the same thing. We love our solutions, but we also need to be brave enough to give them up if they are not fitting into this European ecosystem that we need to build with each other. So even if we involve, and I think we should involve the national parties such as the national NRENs, then also the NRENs should be brave. And we all have this kind of pride of our own solutions. I think you all recognize that. We love our solutions. We have been working on it. And so this will be hard for us as well, but we really have to do it because this is what we need for our students. So I agree with you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Maybe someone from our online participants, Vice Rector Schweigert, or Professor.
May I?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I totally agree with Christiane, if I remember correctly her name. And I think that we in Epicure were creating our solution based on an open source solution that we had in the University of Thessaloniki. As a CMS, we have built on top of that the Epicure campus management system. But now in the our long-term vision is to extend it more with new interfaces, as Christiane said. But we would like to discuss with all alliances and also with other standardization bodies how these interfaces will be interoperable with other systems. For example, we would like to be interoperable with the Erasmus Student Card initiative. We would not want to implement the Erasmus Student Card, but we would like our CMS to be interoperable with that, to share data that are needed for that. Other thing is to be interoperable with Erasmus without paper. Of course, it should be in order to support other traditional Erasmus mobilities. Also, we have done that already, but we haven't deployed that. We are testing this in the pilot phase to create micro credentials to issue, let's say, micro credentials that are in the format, the main attributes that are needed for the micro credentials based on the micro credentials white paper that has been delivered last December. So we would like to create a quality assurance unit that is able to share data to you multi-rank if needed. So I would say that it's not to create, to have common systems, but to have common exchange of data. For me, that's the goal. And also, I would like to ask Christiane. I have seen that CERF is part of IMS Global Standardization of EduAPI. Do you know what are the activities that has been undertaken in that front, Christiane? Do you know?
Well, there's also a working group of IMS Europe that is focused on standardization within the education sector in Europe. And we are talking with IMS Europe, and we are talking with an organization like UNIS as well, just to investigate what is possible. But IMS Europe is quite new as well, so finding its way in positioning itself, and so are we. We are still in the process of finding out how to organize ourselves better than we do now.
Maybe if you would like some support, maybe some alliances could work towards that. And if you would like, we can support these initiatives, because I would say that if we are interoperable or participate using deploying or reusing, exploiting the know-how that we have and the mobilities, for example, as the previous speaker said before, I don't. For me, it's really a pity that I'm not be there, and I'm really sorry for that, to meet you in person and discuss this more. But I would say that we have identified that there are many data that we need to transfer in the Turing for the mobilities, for the recognition of courses, in order to respect the local laws, many things. So we have the know-how, and we are building this know-how every day because we are testing new mobility formats. So I would say that if we all together, for that reason, I have said before that we need to discuss about use cases and what are the data that we need to exchange. And if we have all this data together and identify the common denominator about this data, then we can go to the IMS Global and Standardization Committees to say that we need that. And also we can help and create prototypes in order to support them, all these XML or interfaces, etc., and schemas. So, and then all these platforms, Moodle, all these open source platforms eventually are adopting all this data. So this is, to my point of view, the correct cycle. It's to go there, to tell them that these are the requirements from many alliances together, not one or a university. And then to support them by creating, these prototypes, because these are our deliverables as well for the future rollout. So for me, this would be a real initiative.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think that even if there were no European universities, we should do this. But because they are there, it's possible. Mm-hmm. And it's needed more, but it's also more than ever possible. So I really think we should take this opportunity because you are so important in making this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask Vice President Schweiger whether he would like to respond on the short-term, long-term question. But if Vice President is not with us, maybe at the moment, in the room there was another question, I think. Yes, then we have another question, please.
Thomas Esselman from the European University Association. One question picking up on the short and long term, maybe questions to the colleagues from the alliances, very specifically on the student mobility. What are the kind of numbers that you have now, mobile students, and what are the long term projections, let's say 5 to 10 years? Because I think it was already addressed. We have to deliver something because of the European project funding that we get, but the long-term vision is probably difficult. So I think it would be interesting to see what's the scale specifically on that aspect.
I'm just good because I'm from the second wave, so figures are not yet super brilliant. So I would prefer to have someone from the first wave talking about it. They're online.
But
charm.
I think Jan, what would you?
It's a very good question.
Yes, it's good.
And from the perspective of charm, because we started with building something new from scratch, we did not have a lot of students yet, but we expect that quite some more in the future, and that's also where the European Committee wants us to focus on large amount of students connected to each other, building the European mindset. So yes, I think that we all are aiming for larger amount of student mobility, But then also then comes the digital part in it, because the mobility is not only the physical mobility, but also the hybrid and virtual mobility, that we need this kind of solutions. And I'm really happy that all kind of alliances are already developing solutions, because we need those kind of innovations to find out what is helpful for us. So I'm really glad there are good solutions already, which I'm happy to have a closer look, and maybe also to use it for our purposes with Charm, for the mobility. Maybe it's not a solution for the long term, but also we can use it for the short term. But yes, I think it will be grow, but it's we don't know yet. I don't know someone else.
Let me add that I'm from the European Republic of the Caribbean, and in our project, we wrote that our aim is really to allow students to create their own learning pathways within our university. The principle of the long term honesty of their lives. So I think this is the aim to every European university. So this pressure for the short term deliverable push us to create a temporary solution. So, for example, a catalog of the academic offer, from what I understood, is not include all the academic offer of all the partners, but just a joint academic offer of the alliance. We would like really to connect the catalog of the old universities, innovations, courses here and there, as good. I think this is the, for now we have just 10 so we can manage certify the courses using all the fashion paper-based side. But of course, we have to thank you for all the presentation, for the technical one, the more open-minded one. Really, I think we don't have to let this pressure to push us to short-term solution, and then we have to abandon them to look in the long term. But we have to invest from now in this long-term process. And if I may add, with the alliance, yeah, we have this, we can do really do something. And maybe for you too, if you said there is an active group, but maybe this is an issue where you can work with probably one also, if there is a subgroup there. So all the countries, one alliance can work together in this declaration. It is very important. So I think we should really.
We got one last comment.
I'm Melanie Grisman, the Liceo's general manager. I came just to John Lake and see. I sort of because John Lake just joined up on the blog. We're awarded, but I was beginning thinking about these issues. So what we can do for digitization for us, what's important is the user experience, what our students, our teachers, our citizens I can see from Moodle. So having a one-stop shop is so important. And we thought that having a digitalization unit with someone in charge, taking this harmonization and interoperability together in different groups and knowing what our community needed was very important. UCA, they have a know-how also, so we could do it, and we specifically in the budget put 200,000 euros more for this. For us, this experience, we knew, and it was not pretty time yet, but we knew that this was very important to have one-stop shop for all sales somehow. And this is our digital platform. The idea is having that if you're a student, you're a citizen, you're from somewhere, you come to this sales and you know where to go. And you know that there you're gonna have all these everything, and you're gonna have I don't know, welcome guide. If you're going to move inside of the sales, you're gonna have there your all your guidance to do so. You're gonna have all the tools to do so properly. You're gonna know how credits are going to be recognized and where to go. And for joint degrees, for instance, is quite important. Now, working in joint degrees, we know we have the first thing we have is one topic for us. And for us, this made much more easy to work on other things because we have to do it. So when we're preparing a course together, it's like Luke is there, you know, his team is there, so it's easy. You know, we can have these, and for instance, to register the students to register and to know, you know, all the data and know who is participating in Odysseus, who are Odysseus students already, who are, we're more than 220 persons right now, and we're working on more or less working on Odysseus. How we know it? Because simply have it. So it's quite easy if you concentrate the know-how in one space. It's not having just one person, one unit in charge, but concentrating the know-how in one place. And you're in contact with all the different universities, IT directors, with the persons that are in charge on developing different solutions. So that's, I think that's made it much more easier, and for sure with a foresight in the future and what we want to have in the future with this year's journey. I think it's time we want to have probably more, and being together, it was so important to have something like this because it's a place in the SharePoint. Now we have just migrated everything to our team, so everything, all we say is a digital platform working. And I think it's going to be a step forward. Yes, we're, you know, a little proud of thinking about this very, very soon in the beginning, because it's very useful and it's led us to go very fast from the lights.
How can you find the?
That's tricky. That was very tricky. That's very, okay, that's for human resources problem. That's very tricky. UCA has very hard time. And very hard time finding people, and it's quite difficult because it's France also, and you know, in Spain or in Italy, it would have been cheaper probably. But that was the point. The point is that they have know-how, and they are going to, you know, they're concentrating all the part of digitalization, and it's worth it. They found it can be, and it's really great to have things in the team and taking charge of the digitalization unit. We did it with everything. We have units for everything. They concentrate the know-how of fully staged. For example, like an internationalization unit, we have a projects office unit, we have a coordination unit, and we have a dissemination unit. For us, that was topics that were very important, and we concentrated. It's very expensive. We have specific persons in charge with a lot of experience that I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
Thank you very much. I think this can be the last word. So it is worth concentrating know-how, and thank you very much for being with us in this session where we're trying to take steps towards similar goals. Now there is a coffee break starting. Only 8 minutes left until the end of it. In this room, you will find a quality assurance session afterwards. In the other one, a financial session. Thank you very much again, and have a nice, charming.
Thank you.